and I'll just welcome you to the show. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And I'll be traveling back to Bristol tomorrow, so Michele Pischea is going to co-host with Michael. Dr. Tim's hour will be pre-recorded again. He's on vacation this week. And so his hour will be pre-recorded, and then Michele will be with Michael in the second hour live. And then I'll be back to normal, I guess, on Wednesday. And so it's been a little bit different to try to handle recordings and do different things, and I apologize to those who listen on Podbean that they haven't been able to access it, but I didn't bring my microphone with me. So anyway, that should be back running again as of Wednesday. And Michael had gone to, they had a parents' picnic at Arya's school, and all of the parents and grandparents had other occupational things going on, and so Michael was picnicking with Arya at her school, and he should have already been back, so hopefully he'll dial in here in just a second, and I'm sure he had fun with her there. So I do see that Sunny has her hand up. I'm going to go ahead and turn your microphone on. I'm assuming you thought that Dr. Tim's show was live, but welcome, Sunny.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, I mean, I am using a headset. Actually, I believe that you are very qualified to answer some questions of some of where we've been sharing the work on another social media in a chat room setting. For one, I would like to know how to get a hold of Carrie. I see that she is of the same social media, and if you could, maybe Michele or you could put me in touch with Carrie at some point. But some of my listeners,
your phone number and your email, and let her contact you.
Yes, thank you very, very much. And I
would
think she would remember me from the way back.
Right. And so text me after we get off the show. Don't say it over the
yes, exactly.
Broadcast,
exactly.
But make sure that I've got your proper email address. If you'll text it to me, make sure I've got it. Okay,
yes.
Awesome. And Michael has joined us if you have a question for him.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Michael.
Hey there, young lady. You've got a thought for me? How can we support you? What's exciting in your world and all of that?
Well, just enjoying the joy you must be experiencing after a day with the littles. And the little
I
people
just finished having lunch with
granddaughter.
her out at a picnic at school, and it was sweet, and kids running around like there's no tomorrow.
Yes, as it should be, huh?
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, there's that word, but yes, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
All right. Well, we've been sharing the material, and I'm always courteous on here of other people's time as well, but we've been sharing the material, and I discovered that Carrie is in that same social media, and the ability to reach out to her is the way she has things set up. So we've got that pretty well established somehow that Jeanie's going to be able to take care of that and getting us connected. And so that you know that the word is being spread and doing the teaching to the best of our capability. And what I've attempted to do, Michael, is that I don't profess to be qualified to teach, but, you know, we are responsible for sharing this knowledge and to the best of all of our abilities and encouraging people to get a hold of it for themselves. One of our listeners is listening here with you today, and to construct the question, just drop me a text, and let's see what we have here. All righty. She's on with us, and she says, how do you figure out where to start when you start the process? Because we're looking at 4.5 decades and I need to get onto the bottom, I guess, and work my way up. I don't know.
I have an answer for that.
Explain, her first worksheet, she tugged on that thread, and
I have an answer for that.
Together. Very good. Here you go.
So here's what I would suggest you do. First, you go to your app store on your phone, and you type in the words Heartland, Heartland. Second word, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. You'll see in the first few apps, depending what phone system you're on, you'll see a glowing red heart on the app, and that's our forgiveness app. So I suggest you download that, and then you go to our website, whyagain.org, whyagain.org, and in the upper left-hand corner, when you land on the home page, you'll see a button that says Start Here. And either the first or the second video explains how to use the app, how to get started, how to work with it. And so the step-by-step, the earliest tool, the one I first developed 4.5 decades ago, is called a reality management sheet. There are 2 different versions of the reality management sheet in the app. And Jeanie did a video that explains how to use the app and the intricacies of it, and it's really pretty simple and straightforward. And then, as you start to work with it, if there's anything that you don't understand, of course, you're welcome 5 days a week from 1 till 2 o'clock, actually noon till 2. Noon to 1 o'clock is Dr. Tim's hour, and then our hour is 1 till 2 o'clock. You're welcome to call in and ask questions, or from within the app, all you have to do is click a button, and ask your question. Gee, I'm on step 3 of the worksheet. This doesn't make any sense. What do I do? So hit send on that. Jeanie will get that email, and will ask your question on the show. If you can't be on the show personally to ask it, she'll ask it, we'll talk about it, answer it, and then she'll send you back a link to the radio show so you can go to the archives and get your answer. So yes, that's the starting point of the forgiveness process. And the basic process of forgiveness is about how you delete from your mind hostility and fear-based data that leads to the mind generating hostility and fear-based perceptual constructs. The whole forgiveness process, as opposed to the culture tells us we're supposed to forgive everybody else, if I choose to let you off the hook for the pain that's happening in my mind, that's being generated by my physiology, obviously I've done nothing to change the pain that's being generated by my physiology. Virtually every one of us was taught right from the beginning to blame somebody else for what's going on inside of us, so the natural logical progression of that monstrous mistake that the Greeks made is, well, then I'll forgive them. I'll let them off the hook for what's happening inside of me. So what happened is they substituted the Greek act of pardoning for forgiveness. And pardoning is a nice thing. You know, somebody does something that's really improper, illegal, immoral, whatever. It can be a nice thing to let them off the hook. But if what they did resonated something painful in you, you don't want to stop with letting them off the hook. You want to take the next step and actually engage in forgiveness, which is where you go inside yourself and remove the root of your pain. Otherwise, and people who never learn to do that get to live the title of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Or oftentimes they'll change the title of my book, and the title becomes, Why Are They Doing This to Me Again? Or they'll change it to, Why Am I Doing This to Myself Again? The only reason anyone ever experiences pain is because there's an energy within their structure that doesn't belong there. If we live in denial, then what happens with the human mind, so we understand how the mind works, what happens is the mind makes up a series of pictures out of its unresolved trauma, and it massages that information into a picture that makes it look like the trauma is caused by somebody else. You want to collapse that picture, and that's what forgiveness does. And there's how it's done.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Is that a precise enough explanation?
Yes, it's beautiful. Condensed version of wow and yes. this person has done so well to be in there for all, oh, she's in your website and rocking it out. I think it's her question. It's not so much of overwhelm as I communicate with her. She's found the interconnectedness, and I guess the question might be, yes, okay, I feel this first worksheet took me back 4.5 decades, and then I got all my today matters that are still resonating, do that very thing, but chipping away at the moment by moment, and it's a family dynamic of narrowing down each person and breathe. 2, 3, 4. So not so much of overwhelm. It is that she's also very excited about, I feel it working. Now where do I go?
Awesome.
Or slowing it down to focus on next steps.
Well, aren't going to necessarily control it. Once you open the floodgates, things oftentimes will just start to move. And they can be somewhat overwhelming at first. And it can seem like you turn around and there's that same issue there again. I did a worksheet on that yesterday. And if you remember 2,000 years ago, they asked the man Yeshua, how many of these darn worksheets do we have to do anyway? Is 7 enough? And in Aramaic, what he replied to her was, no, he said, 77 times 70. Now, you add 0 to a number scripturally, and that's infinity, and 7's a number of completion. Why was it 77? Because we're going to do, each individual is going to do literally an infinite amount of work until they're finished with whatever that issue is in them. And remembering that this body-mind unit is literally a multi-generational database, we're going to start to deal with the issues that have come to us generationally. You go back and you listen in the ancient scriptures, and this isn't about theology, it's about physiology, it's about psychology, it's about genetics and physics. And when they said the sins of the fathers will be passed down to 3 and 4 generations of those who hate me, first of all, recognize that we are energetic beings, and literally every energy that enters into our field is stored holographically in every cell in the structure, including the sperm and the egg. So were I to conceive a child tomorrow, that child would have in its structure literally every thought I've ever thought, every feeling I've ever felt, every unresolved issue that I have, and every skill that I have. And so if one is the early adopter, the first one in the family pattern that goes, oh, I think it's time for me to stop blaming everybody else. I think it's time for me to walk away from my conflicts, talking to me about myself, rather than talking to me about how everybody else is the problem in my life. When I change that dynamic and I'm the early adopter, it's a pretty significant shift to make, and there's a significant amount of work to do. And what you'll find is if you stick to it, if you just do those worksheets on a regular basis, your mind will make a turnaround, and it's beyond what can really even be explained. I mean, we can talk about it, but the experience of that shift, the first time that you do a worksheet and you get a clear picture of what was really happening, and you see how it was totally and completely tied to the past, and it didn't have anything to do with this person or this situation at all, except that this person or this situation resonated it. When you catch your mind at that game, then it is faithful to the mind, and you're going to get to be able to move to the point where you literally are out of your mind. And to heal, that's what has to happen.
Right, and part of what the experience, she's texting as we go, and she's listening to you, Michael, thanking you. She's described the physical symptoms of healing, and in your words, she describes them as much like the experience of having quit smoking, that shaking, that internal body vibe, the hands shaking, trembling. And from your perspective, when you touch on something that feels, she's very willing and she's wide open and doing her work, Michael, I assure you. Yes. So what would you
extending love in your direction and holding the space for it.
And speaking maybe from your words of that idea of when this has opened up so much interconnectedness to 4.5 decades, that what she refers to as withdrawal symptoms. If you could maybe speak to that while she's listening.
Well, again, the symptoms of healing happen on a physical, a mental, and emotional level. So on a physical level, healing looks like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had and low energy, and or any kind of physical symptom that anyone in your bloodline has ever had. On a mental level, looks like any kind of negative thought you or anyone in your bloodline have ever had, and confusion. On an emotional level, it's any kind of negative feeling you've ever had, and depression. That's what healing looks like. When you think of your body-mind unit as an energy system rather than a physical thing, you recognize that relative to your energy system, there are basically two qualities of energy. What builds it up, what tears it down. In the ancient Aramaic, putting a tear-down energy within your system was described as sin. And the word sin in Aramaic is simply an archery term. This is about, again, this isn't about theology. It's about physics and physiology, psychology, and genetics. When they said the wages of sin is death, that wasn't some kind of theological threat, God's going to get you for your sins. They were saying if you engage in enough hate, fear, rage, or poison, those toxic energies are sin, are destructive to your structure, and sooner or later it's going to kill you. If you apply forgiveness, then you remove those quote-unquote sin energies, and the tissue structure is alleviated of its burden and its symptoms. And on the way out, you get to experience what the symptoms were, the same as if they were on the way in. It's just a reversal. The symptoms of healing are absolutely 100% identical to the symptoms of disease, except for one thing. What direction is the energy going in? In the disease process, it's going into the structure. In the healing process, it's coming out of the structure. And the thing that accelerates the healing process the most is willingness. Am I willing to embrace this? Am I willing to be with this? Even though it's mass confusion, I can't even think one end up the other. I don't know what's going on. That's the place where you stand in willingness, you breathe, and you let the energy move. And in my experience of 45 years or so of guiding people through that worksheet process, the most common feedback I get when I ask people to answer question 6 on the worksheet, which is, if I look back at this whole situation, what's it look like to me now? The most common answer is, and people, were maybe at a level of upset on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 9, they get to the end of the sheet and it's like, I can't even believe I was upset about that. Like, what was there to be upset about? Well, actually, nobody has ever been upset about anything happening in their lives. There's just upset in there, and we can tie that upset to anything or anybody. You'll notice that your worst enemy can do for your upset, and if there's no enemy around to deal with, you can do it to your best friend. And that's the way the mind operates. Once you understand how it operates, then you let go of attaching your own pain to your brain's image of others, and relationships change, your physiology changes, and everything starts to move onward and upward. And, most people in this culture, just look around at all the conflict and all the garbage going on, most people in this culture, by the time they are 4 years of age, are very devout, religious people who are very committed members of the one world universal religion of blame. Whatever's going on in my life is somebody else's fault. And that doesn't change until you start implying forgiveness. And when you do, you start dumping it instead of using it to build your brain's image of others. And, just the whole game changes.
Yes. Well, she's texted here, I so relate. And I think that at the timing of when that response came in, she said, I so relate. Thank you. Thank you. I believe that was how the energy looks the same going out as it did when it came in.
Sounds like you're ready.
Yes, she is,
Yeah.
and she's
Awesome.
so grateful and just loving it. And then she said something about exactly with confusion at times. And then one more quick thing, unless
confusion is a very high state. Yeah, confusion is a very high state compared to believing you know and realizing that it's really all projection. Confusion is a very high state, and it's a key part of the process. Nobody goes through the healing process without some measure of confusion. It's an energetic dynamic that happens in the mind.
Yes. And then
Cool.
Speaking of a couple of other people who have expressed that journaling is, or writing things down is not something they do. It's, yes, obviously something maybe to be forgiven at some point. But if to get started, they want to start, but the whole leaving that stuff around, they just, whatever that is, I'm sure with the thousands of people you've met with, have you met with people on how do you speak to people that they just have this huge opposition to pen to paper, whatever that looks like. Have you met with that before, Michael? They'd rather do it in their head.
It's an ancient principle that's been around for a long time. You remember there was this very famous person a couple thousand years ago. His name was John, and he delivered to the king and queen some information they didn't want to hear. And they literally removed his head. And that's just, that's one of the parts. If you remember, and again, this isn't about religion, it's about when we shift into where we live in a mind connected to love, which in the ancient teachings was called the mind of Christ. You remember the forerunner to the Christ was who? John the Baptist. What does that mean? It means that before you wake up to the truth of who you are and live connected to your true human self, which is the mind of love in you, or what was called the mind of Christ in you, you've got to meet somebody who's going to show you what it is that you don't want to deal with. There were two very important skills that John had not developed. And so you want to be careful until you develop those skills. If you remember, John did not have the skill of knowing when to duck and when to hold the mirror up, and they took off his head. So you want to practice developing those skills before you go, shoving it in someone's face who's not ready to hear it, because not everybody's as willing as you are. Not everybody's as ready as you are.
Yeah, well, the readiness, the willingness, it's like this makes so much sense to me, but it's this thing operating for that person that I don't know if someone found their diary as a child and they were humiliated by that experience, and it is that gripping fear of anything evidential from within being printed out in front of them again. I don't know what that really looks like.
That's why the app, which you use on your phone, is extremely private. Nobody can access what's on that app. You can print it out if you choose to, or you can just save it as a PDF on your phone. But the app, if you look into the app, you'll see that it only asks for one permission. The only permission it asks is, in order to operate, I have to use the internet. Can I do that? It doesn't ask to be able to write texts or make phone calls or change your drive or, do any of that stuff. The only thing it asks for is the ability to use the internet. If you choose to print your worksheet or save it as a PDF in your phone, it will ask for one additional permission, and that is to be able to write to the drive so that you can save it. But otherwise, there are no permissions involved. You can tell that thing anything you want, and it's totally, completely private. Nobody has access to it but you.
All right. I hope at least one of those people is listening to your response to that, Michael. I appreciate your time very much. You and Jeanie both.
Delighted.
Yes. And Jeanie, I hope you enjoyed the Mother's Day song I sent you, the happy song. It's just a happy song. And that you did, in fact, truly enjoy your Mother's Day. I love and appreciate the both of you.
All right, young lady, you have a blessed one.
You too, honey.
Thank you. All right, you have another hand up.
Awesome. Let's say hello.
Yay. This is Rex, 517. You're on the air.
Hey there, young man. How are things in Michigan? Hello,
Or
Rex.
maybe it's
Are you
Mitzi.
muted? Maybe it's Mitzi. Are you mute challenged? We're not hearing you if you're talking. Hello, hello. We still have no voice here. Check your mute button and or hang up and call back in again and see if we can get connected.
Okay, and you have another hand up.
Let's go for it.
All right, I think this one might be Patrick McGann. 727, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Patrick. Can you hear me?
Well, hey there, Patty. How do you be, sir?
I be good. I apologize for calling in late. I didn't hear the earlier conversations. Do we need to continue anything? Because I have a couple specifics I want to go over.
Well, we're complete, so the floor is all yours. What's on your mind?
All right.
It was awesome to have that time with you last week when I was in Florida. And
me too, especially what you did. Thank you for the treatment. So I want to go over that. The main thing is that from the very beginning of working with your work, I always wanted it to be easier and less painful. Because, it's like, what do you do when you don't have a brother or sister or group to help you when you're bringing up your pain? A lot of people avoid it because of the pain, including me for sure. So there's three ways that I found there's other ways, but much faster. One that I dropped when I was out 2 times back, and that was using Bach flower remedies. But in the pace of life, that hooks you up to your high self, your love self, the true self quicker, so you can process faster that which you've judged negatively. But those are for sale or for gift if anybody wants them. Now, we moved on to Avison a few years back. Oh, no, you got me with the Beamer. The Beamer, whenever anybody, these are my viewpoints, and anybody has anything they don't want to feel, they don't want to face, they do a couple different things. One is tighten breathing and tighten and put the jaw in a certain position when awake and aware. Also, the face has about 500 and some movements that it does that the person you may not see, but it's going on, and they have to make it stiff. So you have involvement of the face, the neck, head, atlas, especially the temporalis joint, which is like, from my perspective, a microcosm or a microchip for all patterns in consciousness, especially those that have been held or resisted. So for me, when you have energy, emotion, and energy in motion, it should be in motion. It is exactly and precisely with blood flow. So whenever you jam an emotion or subdue it, you subdue blood flow. You're killing the body. Also, if it's negative, it creates negative chemistry. So you're killing yourself another way, against life, against love, which is the same thing, I think. But so the Beamer, I wanted one for a few years, and then finally, Dr. Michael Ryce, thank you, gave me about, I think, a $500 discount. So I put 2 credit cards together that were 0% interest and invested, and one of the best investments in life. So when I was sleeping one night, besides giving a lot of life, it went into my legs, opened up the flow, and my face contorted in the night with this energy coming up from my legs with all my hate of hate and all my hate of war. I couldn't control my face, but anyway, started feeling my neuropathy and leg problems to some high degree, and I started having a lot more life. That was number one. So I think that's a really good investment, especially if you have pets, because Avison, which is the next one, doesn't do that. The Avison you called the physical forgiveness machine or something like that. But for me, again, I was supposed to have in the military, their ideas is I had Agent Orange, therefore given diabetics. I didn't get cancer, lucky me. So with that, I had this only ability about 5, 6 years ago when I came to my house where I live now, was to work about 2.5 hours per day around the yard or in the house, and then the pain was so intense, so burning hellfire in my lower legs and feet that I would have to sit up in the living room, minimum 20 minutes, and I can handle a lot of pain, but I couldn't hardly breathe for at least 20 minutes. So it subdued enough for me to be able to handle the pain. So I had a friend come over, brought an Avicen, didn't know what it was, stuck my hand in it, one hand 15 minutes, one hand 15 minutes. When I got up, I felt really like Mr. Gumby Gooey. I didn't have a lot of balance because I had relaxed so much. I didn't know what it was at that point. But I went in my room to get something, put my shoes on that I didn't have on, walked back out, and the next thing I know, I'm going, what is that feeling in my feet? And I was kind of upset, what is that? And I looked down at my feet, and I said, oh, my God, that's heat. And this is not accurate, but I said to myself, it's been about 20 years since I felt any heat in my feet. So that was the beginning of Avicen, and it disappeared for 3.5 days, my pain. And then, so I got mad and said, he brought up my anger, and my anger said, I got to buy this machine. It only lasts 3.5 days for me. So I bought the machine, and I put blankets on myself to save ambient heat, got in a chair, put my feet up, and got drainage well, so I wasn't fighting gravity. And I detoxed, just like when I was out at your place and we were doing forgiveness, and I'm eating vegetables that haven't been cooked for, 3 months. I mean, what a detox. So I got healthier and healthier. And then I had inability, my body was so stiff, my hands were so stiff that if I tried to make a fist, I'd laugh, when they go to do an IV, and my fingertips would be about 2.5 inches from my palm. And that was it, blocked arthritically and blocked just tight tissue, just rigid. So after using the Avicen for about 8 months, and I don't know when the hands got better, but at 8 months, all the neuropathy, hellfire pain disappeared permanently. And I never had it again. Then you came down, watched me get ready for a hurricane, and that changed everything, where I could work for 11 hours straight and only have normal human foot pain instead of hellfire. So I've been working actively. I work 5, 6, 7 hours a day, sometimes now on my feet. No problems anymore. So my theory as a therapist has always been that whatever I release in a person's physical body through all of my techniques, and, it's a pattern, and I unblock the flows, but if the forgiveness is not there, it will return. If the person has a belief system, a program, negative, to whatever degree they hold on to that and activate it, it'll bring the body back into restriction, illness, all the things that I had. The other thing, so my hands got so well after a certain period of time, maybe 8, 9 months, I don't even remember, that they became flexible again. I got through some of the arthritis on the majority of all fingers, but 2 or less. And I relicensed as a massage therapist and started being a therapist again and doing my naturopathic manipulations and osteopathic. So I had a blast. I mean, life-changing, quality-changing. Now, all this was in combination with forgiveness work, but it was easier than ever. Now comes the crowning prince. So I highly recommend anybody get that machine and do that. It's very convenient. It does the same, in my opinion, that a 40-year study in saunas does, which is 40% less morbidity by heart problems and 33% less by all other causes. The theory on that would be heat shock proteins, unblocking the microcirculation and putting those enzymes and proteins back to work as they're restructured properly. So it does amazing things. The Beamer will do no heat. The Avicen does the heat, and I put, I think, 600 hours into heat and healing and 2,000 plus into microcirculation because it did so much for me. I wanted to know why, what, how. But the Avicen gives, again, a fever at 104 degrees free to the body. So during COVID, my wife and I, she's a channel, so she channeled that won't stop you from getting COVID, but it'll get you through where you won't get long COVID. So what we experienced, we got through it, both of us, in about 3 days, and both of us had plenty of morbidities, overweight for me, rheumatoid arthritis for her. We both should have died, but we got through it, out the other side. That was an advantage, so I highly recommend it for viruses. It opens the lungs and emotions that are stuffed and you can't breathe if you're emotional on a negative basis in about 7 to 8 minutes. And it puts the body into, what's that called, not fight or flight, the opposite, parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic activation.
All right. So it's phenomenal. Now, you came down for the crowning achievement, and I've done a lot of work over the years, but this one with something you don't know yet, I'm going to say. Okay. So I get this treatment where you do day after day, we're doing like the still point breathing, and I'm going through still points one after another after another. And I'm getting more and more clarity, more and more lightness. But the final thing was you did your treatment in the jaw, which is where key factor and of everything. It's like, okay, anything I'm holding, I'm going to clench my teeth, hold my jaw, put my jaw in a certain position to resist what is. And when you opened it up in the end, the first thing physiologically I noticed is I've been actively working with taking the tilt out of my pelvis for over 3 to 5 years, something like that. And it's very hard to be consciously aware without losing awareness to keep it tucked properly. And it was hard. It was a lot of work, a lot of stretching, a lot of awareness, and still not getting there. Instantaneously, it was like I'm now an observer to the highest degree I've ever been, and I can observe my body, and I can tilt things, and move easier. I've got a clarity, and here's a clarity that we knew already, is I was clearer than ever, but the most important part to do with forgiveness is that I'm clear all the time. Whenever I'm watching myself or others, I'm very clear as if I, became a psychic or something, I don't know. So I'm more attuned to my awareness of everything they're doing and all the realities that they're living in and they're projecting, for me and for themselves. And I'm much easier to work with that for them and attune to it because I can read it so easy. But most important, I can observe it in myself all the time. So what used to be difficult, like a heavy-duty negative, you did that to me projection, and then I have to reclaim it for myself and say, what is my belief system, my program, my thing that I'm generating here and trying to project it out, and then it'll keep happening over and over again. That's just like not there at all. It's like if some junk comes up, I observe it as it is, but it's light duty. It doesn't come up strong. It doesn't come in. So it's very easy to observe and very easy to address the issue that's within myself. And so, therefore, I think years and years and years of stuff was unloaded off the top of my clarity and my vision and intuition and health. I don't know. It's like amazing to me. So I highly recommend that anybody gets a chance to do that with you. Those are my 3 recommendations. That's all I have to say.
Cool.
Yeah. What a major
Continue with the worksheets.
Yeah. Oh. You always can I say anything besides the worksheet, like the Rosicrucian walk over and get the other viewpoint? So in worksheets, in the old days when I projected a lot, still I was holding on. So I'd say, and so I'd do the worksheet, slow motion kind of a thing. And then I realized that everything I was viewing was a negative belief system, program, or viewpoint within myself, against myself or against others, or both, same thing. And then I would say, okay, I want it faster, so I got the idea from Rosicrucians to walk the circle first, I'm sorry. In what would you say, chronological order. First, I always, when I was jammed up, have empathy for the other person. Look into what hurt them, what created them, what made them a thief or a cheat or an abuser, and gain empathy for them. And then study the brain or Dr. Amen's work and know that they had a physiological brain problem too, in addition to their belief systems, and then that helped. But then when I speeded up a little bit, I went to the Rosicrucian idea, or the same thing as we do in high school and college, where you have an opinion that you have to take, and what's that called when you argue one side, and then you've been arguing,
Debate.
you really believe in it. What is it? Debate, right? You're on debate.
Debating, yeah.
So you debate
from
really,
the root of the word is to beat.
So when you're beating on the other people, you think, oh, I studied this, I'm right. And then they say, okay, change sides. You take the opposite viewpoint. And then everybody always ends up thinking the opposite viewpoint is more right as they debate it. So I just go over and get a different viewpoint. Find the good in everything. The big thing for me. Find out what it does for me. Find, if it's a little painful thing and it's an acorn seed size, let me grow an oak tree of it. Always find the good. Those are my additional methodologies I like. That's it. All I have to say.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
holding this space, and glad after so many years of working on that pelvis that you were able to get that instant relief and shift. And this will be interesting to just hear how things unfold as time rolls on.
Yeah, I'll do that, but I have to tell you that I do not feel, since your treatment, that I am even the same person. I made such a shift on this. All those things were like a snowball over how many years? 40-some years? Something like that. That was getting easier and easier and easier. But this last one was, without my effort, the most change I've ever had in the least amount of time, and totally new viewpoint, an easy viewpoint on everything. Just clarity. And
of course, you've only been doing this kind of stuff for 4 or 5 years, right?
No, 40. But I would say every 5-10 years.
Actually, it's more.
Easier.
Actually, it's more than 40, Patrick. We connected before our kids were born, and I think your oldest son now is 46.
42, 46.
And we were doing this long before we had kids, so it's closer to 50 years, Patrick. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Well, let me say this. At first, I hated the work, and I always wanted it to be easier, and I hated the pain that was brought up while I was still a major projector type person. It was not easy. And then it got easier, and it got easier. And with each one of the things I said, they were an assistant, including the flower assistant. They were just a whole nother level. But now, I don't know, maybe I was ready, maybe I'm, but for sure, I don't see anything the same or experience anything the same. So this has been a great exchange. Thank you for the work.
When you change the structure of the antenna, everything the antenna receives and processes has to shift and change. And that's really, where the core of it is.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, I always I've been also being an ergonomic posturing or effortless posturing or working towards the perfection of posturing, because I knew that, for the last forever, probably. Been doing that for over 50 years. But that was the easiest I ever lined up since. And then it's like the incoming information, that's what I mean by clear and also powerful for others and for myself both. The incoming information is very clear, tainted with judgments at all. And if they are, they're very light duty. So it's kind of like there was dirt all over the glass and you couldn't even get sunlight through. Then you keep wiping it off. Now, it was like the final Windex and newspaper clarify. There might be some junk around the edges, but it's easy to clean. Thank you.
Nice. All right, my friend. Glad to have you on my team, and delighted to be on yours.
Yay.
All right. Well, any other thoughts for you today?
For me, just life's so much more beautiful. That's all I can tell you. Forgot about that part.
Hey.
If you're looking through clear glass, which is what I'm doing now, and I'm looking at everybody, I'm seeing the beauty in everybody, and much more like a higher, lighter energy in all the plants I'm looking at right now around my house. Yeah, I'm receiving a lot more the beauty of life. I'm projecting a lot more of the beauty of others back to themselves. So.
All right, my friend. You have a blessed one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. What fun. What fun. This new one-on-one intensive process that I've initiated in just the last few months is boggling my mind when I see the results that are happening for people. It's pretty awesome. More than I ever conceived was possible. And of course, it's only for those who are really willing to go for it. It's not a mamby-pamby process. So, but anyway.
Let's see if Rex can. Let's see if he can hear us this time. 517.
Let's try
again.
First
of all, Rex.
All right.
If you're there, happy birthday. It's just spinning
happy
and spinning.
Eternal Day to you. I hear a giggle.
Well, that's Susan here on my end.
Oh, okay.
But, it looks like my wireless dropped. Let me get reconnected here. Sorry about that, Rex.
Well, you're still loud and clear, Jeanie. Jeanie, you're loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm on the cell phone, but I know that's on the cell phone.
The computer.
The computer is on the internet, so it probably didn't unlink. So hold on. Oh, it says it can't connect. Do we have an internet problem? It says that to me a bunch of times, babe. All right, she's going to attempt to see if there's something going on with the...
Do a quick reset.
Yeah. It says it's connected, so now let's see if I can get Rex's microphone on.
Oh, you
Rex,
can't.
Are you with us? Hi.
I am. You couldn't hear me. Oh, I didn't realize you could hear me.
No, my internet went down. So, happy birthday.
We got you now. You're loud and clear. Happy Eternal Day.
Wow, thank you. Well, thank
Hope
you.
Hope this is the beginning of the best year yet of your eternal life.
Right on. That's the way I'm looking at it. Just a young 70.
There you go.
Today. So I'm
just
excited about that. Just getting started, getting warmed up. I have noticed that everybody else is getting older, though.
Well, isn't it good that other people do 2 years for every one that we do?
Exactly. I just think it's interesting because, you and Dennis both are about the same age and, matter of months apart. And I look at that and I go, no way. You're not there. You're not that old. But then I go, wait a minute. Hold on, Rex. So Missy gave me a card today and it said, happy 29th birthday, because I tease about I just turned 29. So I just keep that number, fluid. So, yeah.
Your 41st, 29th birthday?
Say again?
Your 41st, 29th birthday?
Something like that. Yes.
Okay.
But was that Patrick from who used to live on the Heartland property, in the same area?
No, you're thinking Patrick Quinn. No, Patrick Quinn passed away about 2 years ago.
I thought he had, but when you said over 50 years, and it was Patrick, I just made the link. I don't know this Patrick.
Yeah, this is Patrick McGann. He was my first massage therapist in Atlanta back 50 years ago. He was one of the first people I connected with when I went to naturopathic school in Atlanta. And we've been, hanging out and working together for a half century now. It's pretty cool.
Well, I sure do appreciate the things that he said about working with you and that intensive that he did with you. And I have been, as a matter of fact, while he was talking, I was doing some of the movements that you've asked me to do or you recommended that I continue to do.
Right.
So I do them daily, and I still notice movement in my mouth whenever I put my thumbs in and part them. separate the upper, part of my teeth. And it's so interesting. And as he was speaking, it was like, you know what? It's really true. The shifts that I made along with doing the MMS 1 protocol plus that
right.
and just doing the different things, a whole series of events changed. And sometimes it seems like it's the event that is the catalyst, and it is. But what I also recognize is that, we're all getting ready to be ready, and those of us that are really intent on moving through whatever shows up, then that's, when you called, Michael, and said, yes, this is what I'm doing, and I took you up on it and took advantage of it, and it's just been amazing. And I saw inside me, my divinity, I'll call it, source love, already knew I was going to be coming to see you. That part of me already knew, and I'd done a lot of prep work, and you remember when I got there, I looked really bad. I looked sick. I'd been a month-long healing crisis or a healing process, but it all has changed dramatically. I spent, I worked 7 hours with the rototiller and digging and doing double digging in the garden. I spent 7 hours in one day, and it did take me a day to recover, but I couldn't have done that 2 years ago, even an hour and a half.
Nice shift. Nice shift. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot that led up to that, but had we not done the work we did, my sense is that it would have been really hard. I would have had to do it a lot more difficult and a lot longer process, which was a part of my old patterning. And although it was very intensive is a good word for it. Just like you said, it's not for the faint of heart, but amazing, powerful. And I will flat out, anyone who is willing to go through whatever they're willing to go through, if they're willing to go through the challenge of the actual work, it is a profoundly life-changing experience that I'm in great gratitude for you and appreciation for, allowing me to, be a part of that. And reconnecting with you and Jeanie was just wonderful, and your granddaughter and your family, and just, seeing you guys. And I went a whole week without being on the program. I wanted to, listen in, and I just was busy during those times, and I wasn't able to. So I was glad I was able to get back on today. And my main reason, I just want to appreciate you both. And you opened your home up to me. Your hearts have always been open to us and myself and my family. And I just appreciate you, your generosity in the whole process of your time. That's intense work for you too. That I know how that goes. I don't know your level of work because I don't do that type of cranial work, but I know how intense that is to work with anyone, and it can be. So kudos to you for doing the level of work you're needing to do to continue doing that work with others. That's intense.
Every time I walk somebody through a layer, I get to move through another layer, so I get the gift too. For sure.
I remember when you were working on my mouth and you said, "Oh, my jaw just shifted." I thought, "Yeah," and you said, "We're not healed alone." It's so true. But thank you, Michael. I appreciate you. And Jeanie.
All right.
Blessings.
Cool.
And thanks for the birthday wishes. I appreciate that as well.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks. And we're down to 3 minutes, but you do have another hand up.
Well, let's go for it. We got 3 minutes.
Dusty, 904, you're on the air.
Well, aloha, everybody. It sounded like
¿Cómo estás?
old Atlanta week, and I thought I would call in as one of the brothers. And it was so good to hear Patrick's voice. And Patrick, if you're still listening, you're on my mind a lot and on my call list all the time, but I always get sidetracked. But I love you all, and I'm grateful.
The Three Musketeers back together again, Dusty and Patrick and Michael from 50 years ago.
Yeah. How about that? I mean, it's such a continuum, and so I don't know, I'm struggling with some things, but you know what? I still feel clear in some ways. And I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful for every moment. And before we run out of time, I just wanted to say that other than being grateful for Patrick and you and everybody that's a part of this program, I've got this thing on my desktop that says monitor or watch thoughts, feelings, actions. And because I find myself living alone, sometimes in some stupid dialogue, kind of a little shame-based, as Patrick mentioned that. Just a little bit, you know, with some person. And I go, Dusty, dumb, stop that. Go here. I mean, you know, and there's so much beauty and so much light and love. Why do that? And so, but like Patrick, it's like your pelvis. It's every moment. So, and every moment's a gift. So thank you, one and all. And thank you, Ruka Dekucha.
Yay. I'm with you on that.
Okay, man. I guess we're about out of time. But, all right.
We are. The clock is winding down.
Yep. Okay. Well, much love. Aloha.
All right. Aloha. You have a blessed one. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. Create the best year yet of your eternal life. It is an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings. Bye-bye.